Hello, my name is Dr. Randy Laist, and I'd like to talk a little bit today about summary and analysis. One of the most important distinctions to consider when writing about literature is the difference between summary and analysis. A summary just provides the basic facts of a story, whereas an analysis makes judgments about the facts. Let's choose a short story to discuss that almost everyone knows. Jack and Jill went up the hill. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. A simple summary would explain the most important aspects of the story without adding anything or interpreting anything. The summary writer is like a reporter who needs to explain something that happened in as few words as possible without leaving out anything important. This kind of reporter asks questions like what, who, when, where, how. What is the plot of the story? What happened? Two individuals ascended a hill, and then they both fell down, the male first and then the female. Who? Jack and Jill. When? At some time in the past. Where? A hill, presumably one with a water source at the top. How? How they went? By foot, supposedly, although it is not specifically stated. How they fell? Remains unknown. When you write a summary, you want to think like a computer, seeing only what is there and being extremely literal. It may seem like a kind of nitwit thing to do, but in fact, the cold, cool gaze of the literal summary writer may stumble across details that a more human reader might miss. And our example provides an interesting case. How did Jack and Jill fall? Were they just clumsy? Both of them? It's just a hill, after all, and not a mountain, so it shouldn't be that difficult to ascend. Was there a landslide or a yeti or something that caused them to lose their footing? All we can say at this point is that we don't know, but we do know that now we have stumbled across a question that is ripe for analysis, which is summary's smarter twin. Analysis starts with the investigative journalist's favorite question, why? Why do Jack and Jill fall down the hill, but also, why does it take two people to go get one pail of water? Why would a source of water be located at the top of a topographical feature? Why does Jack fall first? Why is this story so widely known? It is important to note that when we ask such questions, we are no longer talking exactly about the plot of the story as we were when we were summarizing. The answer to the question, why do Jack and Jill fall down the hill, will never be something like, he tripped on a twig. Obviously, because the story is made up and the missing details are nowhere in existence, that word why takes on a slightly different meaning in literary analysis than it has in science, police work, or investigative reporting. The why of literary analysis is more like the why of religion and philosophy. An even better expression than why might be, what is the significance of this? What does it imply or suggest? What kind of meaning does it produce? And how does it produce that meaning? When we ask, why did Jack fall, in a literary analysis, we are asking about falling itself. What does it mean to fall? A person can fall in more ways than simply through space. A person can fall from grace, fall from innocence, fall into or out of love, have a falling out with a loved one, fall asleep, fall into death, fall into error or into disgrace or into a dream. Suddenly, our story is not just about people on a hill. It's about all of humankind, men and women, climbing hills and falling down. Climbing and falling both become symbols of universal human experiences. The hill, the pail, the water also become symbols. Once you discover symbols, you can ask what they symbolize. Every human being who's ever walked up a hill knows that a hill is a potent symbol of challenge and struggle. Water is a classic symbol used throughout world religion and mythology to refer to purity, cleanliness, rebirth, and renewal. If we interpret the symbols this way, we may conclude that Jack and Jill struggle to find purity and rebirth, but instead they fall into sin and death. The fact that Jack and Jill are a man and woman, like Adam and Eve, or like the human race in general, may suggest that they themselves are symbols of the human race as a whole, and or it may also indicate that the text is using gender itself as a symbol to imply that the sin into which Jack and Jill fall is of a sexual nature. Jack and Jill are obviously pretty poorly defined characters. We don't know much about them except what happens to them in the story, but the very fact that they are presented as stick figures makes them stand-ins for any and all men and women. Their story is our story. The key to moving from summary to analysis is to consider the characters, the plot, and the story itself as a message about human life rather than as simply an account of an unfortunate incident. From that point, I can also ask about how the author communicated the message. The nursery rhyme style of Jack and Jill, the rhymes, the rhythm, and the simple vocabulary suggest a timeless quality that adds to the mythic dimension of the text. The author's intention may be to communicate a warning to children about the perils of sexual adventure, or simply about the disappointment and tragedy that they are sure to experience as they move out into the world. Or the intention might be to allude to childhood as another symbol, implying that we are all children, oblivious to the tragic fate that waits us in the form of death, depression, and all the other sorts of falling that human flesh is heir to. According to this interpretation, Jack and Jill is a very moralistic story. It is a cautionary tale about innocence and experience, purity and guilt, struggle and failure, sex and death. These overarching ideas become the themes of the story, the big ideas that the story asks us to think about. If we think of ourselves as Jacks and Jills, and the world as some crazy hill, we encounter a bleak landscape in which all of our hopes and dreams eventually fall to ruin in account of some unexplained stumble. The missing piece at the center of Jack and Jill, the answer to the question of what caused Jack and Jill to fall, itself becomes a symbol of a wider mystery about why anything happens at all. What determines our fate? Why are some born rich and some born poor? Why do some people get cancer and some people win the lottery? What is the mysterious force at the heart of the universe that determines our destinies? In this short slideshow, we've gone from simply summarizing the plot of a nursery rhyme to asking ultimate questions about the universe. That is the power of literary analysis. And of course, it's just the beginning.